Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the Westin Platinum Series oval Nerf bars on our 2025 Chevy Colorado. Now, if you watch this video and you have some questions about these Nerf bars, or if you decide to purchase them, go ahead and share your experience with the installation and how you use them. We love to take those and share them with our other neighbors in order to help them make the best decision. Now, this particular Nerf bar from Westin is a perfect choice for your Colorado. This is a trail bus edition, so it does have a bit of a lift, but a Nerf bar is the perfect thing to put on your truck if you need to get that extra step in and out. Now, it is going to come in really handy for anybody that's maybe shorter, if you have kids getting in and out of the back, maybe elderly, you're picking up the grandparents. Anytime that you're going to need that extra step to get in and out safely, the Nerf bar is going to be perfect for it. This is a 4-inch wide ovular Nerf bar, so it does create nice, really wide, sturdy step. There's a lot of Nerf bars on the market that are much narrower than this. Some of them don't even have a step pad, it's just a round bar. So this is going to be a very sturdy way in and out of the vehicle. It's a powder coated steel, so it's going to be very corrosion resistant, and compared to some other round and oval Nerf bars on the market, the ends are completely closed. There are no open ends to this, meaning there's not going to get any debris or moisture inside the Nerf bars that are going to corrode them from the inside out. It's also not a terrible installation. So follow along and we'll show you exactly how we put these on. Now, as our installation begins, the first steps are really going to be removing some items and even replacing some others with the provided Westin hardware that comes in there. There are 2 small screws here and here in the wheel well, and a pop-out plug right down here at the bottom. I'm going to be removing those. We're going to be pulling back this layer of trim, and there are 2 bolts in there that need to be extracted coming out this way. So I'm going to have to hold the molding, get those out, and replace them with other screws provided by Westin. So we're going to get under here and start removing those right now. So these are the 2 screw holes in the mounting that we're going to go ahead and remove right now. And we're going to do that using a T15 attachment on the smallest wrench that you can find. And then once we get these pulled out, we're also going to remove the plug from the molding down here on the bottom. And the next thing we're going to do once we get those removed is go ahead and take our flathead screwdriver, and we're going to go ahead and get this little fastener popped out of here from the trim. There we go. And we'll keep that handy because we'll be reusing that as well. Now we've got enough that we can really kind of peel away this bit of trim and get at these 2 bolts that we need to replace. But one other thing before we do that, we're going to go and take our 13mm socket and we're going to remove these 2 bolts. Because they're going to interfere with our bracket when we get it up there, it's easy to remove them now when there's nothing else in the way. So we've also got a rubber plug here and a rubber plug here that we're going to need to remove as well. So we're just going to go ahead and get those popped out. Now we can replace our bolts. So the bolts we need to replace are here and here. The nut that's here on the inside of the frame is welded in. You won't be removing that. So don't try to, unbolt it from this end. It's just not going to work. That's why we had to remove those trim pieces so that we can get access to it from over here. So if you have a little 10mm socket, go ahead and get it up there, and we're going to just work these bolts out this way and then get them replaced. All right, so with those removed, we're just going to have to hold back this piece of molding here, and we're going to thread in those M6 button head screws that are included with the hardware pack. And we're going to go ahead and just take our Allen key and just work that, thread that all the way through to the other side. And we're going to have to repeat that process with this bolt here. Now, this bolt here is actually harder to get to than the one I'm putting in right now. But because there's kind of a separate piece of molding with this plastic molding, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in so I can keep that extra piece in place. It should make threading the second screw just a little bit easier on us. So as you can see, this second one is really difficult to reach. So I'm getting it in there and getting it started. And I'm going to try to work my Allen key in there to tighten it in and run it through the rest of the way. I'm just being very meticulous with it so as not to strip it. But if you have a really small ratchet that you can get in here, great. Otherwise, this is by far the most difficult part of this installation. Everything else is pretty straightforward. It's just this part here gets a bit tricky is all. So now that we've got our two new bolts running in toward the inside of the vehicle, we can go ahead and refasten our trim. So I'm just going to put in this push fastener and pop that in first. Then I'm going to come to the wheel well, and I am going to reapply those two screws we took out and just get all of the trim tightened back down to the way it was before. So these are the two new bolts that we've got coming through. They're in nice and solid, just fine. We've got our trim panel completely replaced. Next thing we need to do is remove this bolt here. Now this is a really long bolt, but when we get our bracket in place here, up here in the front, the support arm for it is going to go through this bolt here. So it will reuse the hardware. What we're going to do is take our 21mm socket, and we are just going to work that one out. So the next step is to go ahead and move to these two holes, which are where we remove those rubber plugs. We're going to take these clips, and there is a protrusion on the clip, as you can see. That needs to be facing inside the frame. And the idea is we'll slip it through the big hole, slip it over to so that this lines up with the smaller hole. So we're going to do that just like this. It could use a little help sometimes getting over. And if that's the case, I'd say go ahead and grab your flathead screwdriver and just kind of use that to help kind of work it into its spot. There we go. Now the hole is lined up and through. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing up here. This one might take a little bit of extra work because of this little panel piece that's sort of in the way, but the screwdriver is going to help us out there as well. And there we have it. All right, with those two in place, we're ready to go grab our bracket. And if you need help figuring out which bracket goes where, the bracket that I've got is PF for passenger front, which is exactly where we're at. The bolt holes here and here are going to go on those new bolts that we threaded through. And then the bolt holes that we just created are going to line up here and here. So we're going to go ahead and slip this over the two bolts over here. And now I can go ahead and grab my hex bolt along with my washer and lock nut, and we're going to go ahead and get that started right up through here. And then I'm going to grab another set and I'm going to thread it through right here. Now I'm not going to torque any of these down yet. Right now I'm just going to keep it loose just in case we need some adjustability in our brackets after we get our bars up. So once I get this threaded through as well, we'll move over to the hardware to these bolts. So we've got both of our bolts placed here. Now we're going to put our washer, lock washer, and nut on those bolts that were replaced earlier. So we'll start with the washer, the flat washer rather, then the lock washer, then our nut. And again, we're not torquing or tightening any of these things down too much. We do want to leave a little bit of room to maneuver in case we want to make some adjustments to leveling or anything of the Nerf bars. So these are just getting hand tightened down for now, and we will return to them momentarily. Now we're going to be replacing our bolt right through here along with the support arm for our bracket. And in order to do that, the order of this is going to go that kind of bell-shaped deal that came factory. The spacer is going to go in there. There's a round donut spacer that's going to go right in there. And then we're going to go ahead and line up our bracket and run our bolt through. Now we're going to go ahead and again, we're going to be tightening this down by hand. We don't want to torque anything down yet. So we're just going to hand tighten this up into place. We're just going to make sure the arm of this is lined up right here with this ovular bolt hole. Both holes are ovular, so there's a lot of room for adjustment. But we're going to go ahead and get this hand tightened before we move on to another bracket. Now we're moving to the rear bracket on the passenger side now that our front bracket is, for the most part, complete. There are 2 rubber plugs back here we're going to need to remove, right here on the underside, and then another one right here. So we're going to go ahead and get those popped out. All right, so with our rubber plugs removed, we're going to go ahead and grab our fish wire. We're going to feed that through the larger hole and out the smaller here. And then we're going to take our little welded bolt assembly just like this. We could go ahead and thread it down into the end of our fish wire. Once we have that good and threaded through, we're going to go ahead and get it up in here and feed it right down back through this hole. Once our fish wire is removed, we're going to have a little plastic stopper that we're going to put on it just to keep it from getting knocked back up into our frame. We definitely don't want to lose this bolt assembly in the frame. There's a good chance we will not get it back if we do. So I'm just going to reach into kind of the bigger hole here and hold it down. Take this plastic stopper and I'm going to thread that up onto my bolt. And what this is going to do is create a catch and not let it slip back up in there by accident. So we're just going to go ahead and push as we twist it up and get it threaded on. Now, once I get all settled with this, I'm going to do the exact same process through this set of holes up here before we get our bracket. Okay, so we've got our bolts threaded through. Now we're going to go ahead and grab our rear bracket. It is going to be stamped PR on it for passenger rear. And this can be a little tricky to get on. I find it's easier to go ahead and do the downward facing bolt first. And once I've got that through, I can reach up, kind of angle our horizontal bolt downward a little bit for us and get that fed through that top bolt hole there. Again, a little tricky. There we go. And once I've got that through, I could get to work on kind of feeding the rest of this out. Now I am working hard not to lose my bolts, of course. I've got it by both of them. But now that I've got them both threaded through, I can go ahead and grab my hardware and get this tightened down into place. All right, now before we put our hardware on, I should let you know there are 2 different size flat washers that come with this hardware. The smaller one is going to go on our top bolt, the larger one goes on our bottom bolt. So with that in mind, I'm going to put the flat washer up, followed by a lock washer and the nut. I'm going to kind of get my bracket straightened out a little bit for us here. And I'm going to go ahead and start on that bolt and just hand tighten it down. Again, we just need to leave things loose for any maneuverability we might come across when we actually get the Nerf bar up. Now that the top bolt is finished, we're going to go ahead and do the exact same procedure. We're just going to use the larger of the 2 washers on the bottom portion. And again, thread it on by hand. And our final bracket's going to be in the middle here. It's going to be our support bracket, which you will need with the crew cab. So we're going to go ahead and remove this bolt, just like we did on the front bracket. We're going to end up reusing it. Okay, so with our bolt removed, it also came out with this kind of little rubber stopper here. We're going to go ahead and put that right back up. We're going to grab our support bracket, and there's an oval end hole and a circular end hole. We're going to take the oval end hole, put that right up against there, and we're just simply going to thread our bolt right back through. So it's really the same assembly. We're just adding the support bracket into the mix. And I'm going to tighten this up again by hand, nothing being torqued down yet. And this is really the last step before we need to mount the Nerf bar itself. Okay, so we've got our bolt, lock nut, and washer here, and We also have our Nerf bar, which is going to have a hole in the end of it for these to run through. So where we're going to run it is through our support bracket, through our main bracket, and right into that hole there. So we're going to start with the lock nut and then the washer. I'm going to move this up into position after I thread it through a little bit. And now I'm just going to get it lined up and I'm going to get it started. And again, we're really only tightening down by hand for right now, just to make sure we don't need to make any other adjustments or anything like that before we torque everything down. So once I have this secure, I'm going to repeat the same process on the rear wheel. And now it's time to install our support middle bracket. For that, we're going to grab our bolt right here. This is going to use the larger of the two included hex tools in order to tighten. I've got a lock nut and flat nut washer with it as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and put it through the support arm, and there's a hole here in the middle of our Nerf bar that I'm going to go ahead and get this into. Now, here's the thing about this middle bar for support. We had tried a few different ways to get this installed over on the driver's side. It just does not really lay perfectly flush. So we tried loosening this top bolt here on the bracket as much as possible and tightening this all the way before tightening this down. It just doesn't really, want to bend the way we want it to. We also tried the opposite, and it's really kind of the same thing. So we left this top bolt like pretty much halfway undone. And then this bottom one here, I'm just hand tightening in for now. But what we'll start doing is kind of, tightening this down a few turns, tightening that a few turns, back and forth until we get them both nice and snug. But I just wanted to let you know that this will not lay flush perfectly against this Nerf bar. It's still on there very strong. It's still on there very secure. But if you're looking for that perfect angle flush fit, it's really not going to give it to you. Okay, so we've got everything in place. Our support bracket is there. The last thing we need to do is go in and tighten everything down. Now pay very, very close attention to your instructions. Each different bolt size has a different torque spec. So again, just to make sure you're not, under tightening or over tightening and maybe shearing any of your bolts, just pay very close attention with your torque wrench to which bolts you are doing. So that was a look at the Westin Platinum Series oval Nerf bars on our 2025 Chevy Colorado. I'm Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.